All right, so it sounds like we've got a winner. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the September 12th version of the Technical Advisory Committee gathering. So first up is to call to order for roll call.
Jeff Sims,
Here.
Mike Williams, Richard Perez, Brian McCarthy,
Here.
Jonathan Scott,
Here.
no, Chris Jadek,
Chris Jadek is here virtually.
Michael English, Cal Hardy, Anna Quinones,
This is Anna Quinones on virtually.
Clay Hollis,
Present.
Gina Evans,
Here.
Leland Dykes,
Here.
Christianitis,
Here.
Julie Ham, or Mark Hudson. Gina, I believe they're excused, correct?
That's right.
Danny Jorgensen, Margaret Kubalins, Jay Collins,
Here.
Jennifer Malone,
Present.
Shadalina Pollen. I saw her online.
Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to unmute. Present.
Sarah Caper,
Here.
and we do have an in-person quorum. Chair, would you please call for a vote of consent for remote participation?
She just asked us for consent for participation.
Oh, yes, that's item, yes, please. Do we have to vote for that? Okay, so I guess we have to vote on whether we're allowing the remote participation. Something we do every meeting, it seems like, so we have to have a motion. Can I get a motion?
Jonathan Scott, motion to approve.
Thank you, Jonathan. Do I get a second?
Jake Collins, second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, all on electronically are welcome to attend. Next up is public comment. I do not see anybody physically present in the room, so I will give a few seconds to determine whether anybody is online and wants to speak.
I'm not seeing anybody online today.
Okay, and then before we get into action items, since we just finished roll call, I just wanted to pass along that Mike Williams is also present. Okay, so with that, we'll go into the first item, which is the tip roll forward. Oh, sorry. You put it in a different color, so we overlooked it. Next item up is the approval of the August minutes. So they were included with the packet. Is there any comments or questions on the minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Jake Collins, motion to approve as presented.
Thank you, Jay. Do I have a second?
Jonathan Scott, second.
Thank you, Jonathan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Now we'll go on to action items. The first up is the tip roll forward amendment.
Good afternoon. Can everyone see me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Could I get presenting? Oh, thank you so much. All right. Can everyone see the presentation, or is it showing the agenda?
That's the agenda, Connor.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll move it over.
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, so Connor McDonald, TPO staff, here to present the TIP Roll Forward Amendment for 2022. Before I get into what a Roll Forward Amendment is, I'd first like to explain the TIP and work program timeline. So in the cycle now, FDOT began developing the 5-year work program last July 2021. And following an extensive review period, including presenting to the TPO board around the December timeframe, they released their tentative work program to the TPO around April. This tentative work program is also, or the work program is also known as the State Transportation Improvement Program, so the STIP. And we use this document to create a list of funded projects in the TIP that you see in Table 3. And then June and July, FDOT approves their 5-year work program, and the TPO also has a hearing on the TIP around each June. And then, of course, the TPO TIP becomes effective October 1st, 2022. So what's important to note here is that funding must be spent in the current fiscal year. It cannot be banked or saved for later. So what is a roll forward amendment? So take Project X, for example. It could be originally scheduled for completion in June of 2022 when FDOT first begins the work program. So therefore, it's not included in the next year's work program because they're viewing it as it would be complete. What happens is in between when the TPO staff receives that work program, since it's not in there, it's not placed in our list of funded projects in the TIP. However, sometimes due to project scheduling or a host of other reasons, the funds are not authorized or committed in that fiscal year. So because of that, it must be placed back into the TIP so the funding can be released. And it's important to note here that funding increases or decreases on these projects are limited to minor fluctuations. And because these projects have already been in the TIP before and therefore approved by the TPO board, this presentation will focus more on the funding and the fiscal year changes rather than the projects themselves. So there's 3 projects in this roll forward amendment in 2022 to roll forward 3 projects into fiscal year 23. The first one is FDOT's West Shore Interchange Major Reconstruction. It's in the phase of preliminary engineering and right-of-way, and is about $305 million. This is a total net change of a difference of $1.2 million. This is a 0.39% decrease in the total amount. Then there's City of Tampa's Florida Complete Streets project. The phase is construction for about $3 million and no funding change there. And then there's Hart's new maintenance facility, which came as a TIP amendment back in March, and it's $4 million and no difference there. So the first one, the West Shore Interchange Major Reconstruction, the top you see is the fiscal year 22 TIP that we still are in until October 1st of 2022. And then the bottom would be the fiscal year 23 TIP, and I've tried to align these so you can see like the same fiscal years. You see that there's some difference in fiscal year 23. It's gone up significantly, and then somewhat in fiscal year 24. So again, originally it was $306 million, and now the project total is about $305 million. So that's a total net change of a difference of $1.2 million. The next one is City of Tampa's Florida Complete Streets project. That funding was the same funding codes for construction, managed both by the City of Tampa and by FDOT, and the same amount has moved from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 23. For the Hart's maintenance facility in fiscal year 22 TIP, that was $4 million in SU funds, and in the fiscal year 23 TIP, it's $4 million in the SU funds in 23. So why you see the $11 million in the prior fiscal year is that when we received the amendment earlier this year to process in March, we were not aware that there was previous funding under other funding codes. But then when we received this roll forward amendment, we were made aware of that $11 million. So for transparency's sake, we did of course include that. But that is why you would see the difference there. So as part of the newly adopted public outreach plan and the public participation plan, 21 days prior to the September 14th TPO board meeting, which is on Wednesday, we did issue a press release, post on social media, and released a webpage for this roll forward amendment. And because there are right-of-way acquisition for the West Shore interchange, we did take additional steps for property owners near that interchange who may be affected by delay in the right-of-way acquisition. So we did post 2 signs near the interchange and mailed about 170 flyers to property owners along the corridor. So today the recommended action is to approve the roll forward amendment consisting of 3 projects to the fiscal year 22-23 TIP and recommend approval to the TPO board. And with that, I'll take any comments or questions or discussion.
Okay, great, Connor, thank you for that. Do we have any comments on the proposed amendment? I will say that it's always nice when the forwarding of funding is less than it was initially, so that's a lot easier to review. You know, I do have something that's it's almost petty, but if you could go back to the first slide on the West Shore interchange.
Of course. This one?
The next one. Yeah, just on this one, I mean, again, this has nothing to do with the actual dollars, but like when I was reviewing it, the top table is all apparently in alphabetical order, and then the bottom one is in some order that I can't really make out. So when I was trying to compare them, I was having to jump all around. I just wondering if in the future, if it was possible that we could kind of ensure that they're consistent. So it makes it a little easier for the whole committee to, you know, just do the comparison to see what the differences are.
Absolutely, that makes perfect sense. It's just the way that we enter it into the database. So in the future, we'll ensure that it's and put it in alphabetical order. Thank you.
And the same thing on the following slide, it was a little mismatched on what was like managed by Tampa up top was now managed by DOT in the bottom. So
Okay.
I was trying to see, and I don't know enough about it to know if that's it. I'm sure it was, that could be correct, but again, just little things to point out, just anything that we can do to help streamline stuff down the line. But again, that doesn't affect the actual review of the amendment. So we're not hearing any comments. Can we go forward to the motion slide, please? So we have a motion, seeking a motion to approve the roll forward amendment consistent with the 3 projects listed. Can I get a motion?
This is Jay Collins, make a motion to approve the roll forward amendment consisting of 3 projects to the fiscal year 22-23 TIP and recommend approval to the TPO board.
Very good. Thank you, Jay. Can I get a second?
Jonathan Scott, second.
Thank you, Jonathan. Any discussion? With that, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. And we can now roll forward to the next topic.
Thank you.
Next item up is the FDOT SIS cost vehicle plan.
Thank you. This is Beth Alden, TPO Director, and I'll be presenting this item. I would like to be able to share my screen. If you can make me a present. Oh, there we go. Okay, what are you all looking at now?
You see the go to webinar, let's get started page.
Okay, good deal.
Here we go. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have 2 slides here that we can just use as a point of reference with these maps. So we were asked last month to comment on a preliminary draft of projects from Florida DOT that FDOT proposes to fund in the years 2035 through 2050. Of course, this is going to be an ingredient into our long-range transportation plan. Our next update is due 2 years from now. So there are quite a number of steps that we need to go through between now and then, before we get to the point of having a public hearing to adopt these projects into the long-range transportation plan. So this is just one of the steps among a number of steps between then and now. These projects are on just the major roadways that DOT includes in the strategic intermodal system. And the strategic intermodal system is the map that you see up there on the screen right now. So it's mostly the interstate highways in Hillsborough County. The exception is State Route 60 in the eastern portion of the county. So from I-75 over to the Polk County line, and then extending eastward across the state. That is a designated SIS facility. The other things that you see on the map are hubs, like some of the Port Tampa Bay facilities, Tampa International Airport, MacDill Air Force Base. And then there are a couple of smaller connector roads. For example, Big Bend Road is a connector between I-75 over to one of the Port Tampa Bay facilities, the Red Wing facility. So let me go to the next slide. So in 2019, the last time we adopted the long range transportation plan, we included a number of projects on the SIS that are shown on this map in purple. Some of these projects were in the outer years of the plan, so like from the years 2030 to 2045. And so quite a few of these are still proposed to be in the outer years of the plan. So that includes managed lanes on I-4, interchanges on I-275 north of downtown Tampa, and a project to widen I-275 north of downtown Tampa, north of Hillsborough Avenue, from its current 6 lanes to 8 lanes. So I'm going to close this out for now and bring up the letter of comments. So again, this letter of comment is an initial step in moving towards the long-range transportation plan that we'll be adopting 2 years from now. And the letter that staff has drafted is based largely on the long-range plan we adopted in 2019. So we're noting, for example, that 275 from the West Shore interchange coming up towards the Hillsborough River is a high priority, and we, the TPO, should be involved early in the process of developing a lane management strategy for the managed lanes. We note that the I-4 project from the I-75 interchange to the Orient Road area should be coordinated with another project that was in the long-range transportation plan by Hillsborough County to widen Orient Road. US 41, again near Port Tampa Bay, is a connector, and we're noting that this is a high priority. This is a rail overpass just south of Causeway Boulevard. So State Route 60 at the eastern part of the county. So this is east of Dover Road over to the Polk County line. The MPO, TPO has been communicating to DOT that widening this portion of 60 is not a high priority. Has been communicating this for upwards of 10 years. It's still on the DOT's list to be widened. We are proposing to once again note that this segment is in the rural eastern part of the county. It's outside of the urban services boundary. It could incentivize urban sprawl. And downstream from it, Brandon Boulevard through the center of Brandon has been at the top of our high injury network for a number of years and is in urgent need of safety treatments. We've got a couple of comments about some of the interchange projects. So on I-275 north of downtown Tampa, we're calling out the need for special treatments at the on and off ramps to reduce crashes. On I-4 through the eastern part of the county, we're noting that diverging diamond interchange designs could be considered. In fact, I think we looked at that specifically a number of years ago at the Mango Road interchange. And then the widening of I-275 north of Hillsborough Avenue from 6 lanes to 8 lanes. The TPO board is currently looking at that project and whether it makes sense to keep that in the long-range transportation plan. A position about that has not been taken yet. So we're just noting that it's not clear whether this project is supported. So those are the comments about the projects that are on DOT's list. We are also noting that there are projects that they have not included on their list that might be worth including. And the reason why we're bringing this up is that the SIS policy plan that was approved last year by the DOT has identified some new types of projects that would be eligible for the SIS program. So that includes, for example, safety projects, resilience projects, projects for transportation systems management and operations, advanced traffic management technology, and even capacity improvements on parallel facilities are all eligible now. But we did not see any projects like that identified in this list from DOT. So I asked about that last month at a statewide meeting of the MPO directors with Florida DOT. And the answer that I got back from the statewide SIS coordinator was that they just haven't identified those projects yet, and that they are open to hearing from MPOs about projects, in those that would have those kinds of goals. So we went ahead and identified some projects that are high injury roads on the SIS that it could make sense for them to do a safety improvement. We noted some that have unreliable travel time, where transportation systems management and operations could make sense. And also some segments where vulnerability to inland flooding or sea level rise is a concern, and reducing vulnerability would be beneficial. So that brings us to the end of the letter, and would love to have your support for the letter, or let us know by motion if there are any edits that you would like to see.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Beth. Do we have any comments on the presentation or the letter? Sarah?
Yes, I just wanted to note that we were looking through it and it looks like there could be some inconsistencies with the county's border preservation plan and the cost feasible plan. So maybe that's something we can work with TPO and FDOT to coordinate on and make sure that they're consistent.
Sure, be happy to work with you on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Is there any other comments? Anyone? Mike?
Beth, I have a question about your comments on the State Road 60 project. So from the map, it looked, and maybe I misinterpreted the map, that's why I'm asking. From the map, it looked like they were proposing to widen from Valrico Road to Dover Road, just kind of a short segment.
Okay.
And then your comments were specific from Dover basically to the whole county line.
Right.
But it did, at least from the map, it doesn't look like they're proposing to widen 60 over. Now, the list of projects may be different, and I didn't look at this. I was just looking at the map that you put up there.
Do you mean the map from the last long-range transportation plan?
The map that you put up on the screen earlier in the presentation with the purple lines on it.
Okay, yeah, that's from the last long-range transportation plan. So in the last long-range transportation plan, the board did not include the State Route 60 widening project at the eastern end of the county. And so that's why you are not seeing it on that map. So here's the list that we just got last month from FDOT. And are you able to see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. So State Route 60 from Dover to 39 and from 39 to the Polk County line is what's on their list. And that's what we did not include in the long range plan
Gotcha.
after the public hearing in 2019.
Okay. I thought the map you put up there earlier was what they were proposing. Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Any other comments? I have a couple minor things. First of all, I'd like seeing the vulnerability added. I think that's important that that's in the matrix. I certainly agree with some of these segments that are referenced, especially State Road 60. And just one comment, and again, I don't know the technical language, but on the I-275 interchange modifications at Barris and Bush, I know, going a few years back, we had several incidences with the wrong way drivers going up the ramps. And as such, just looking at the language, we may want to consider adding whatever the technical term is for wrong way detection devices as just another part of the strategies that should be considered as part of the letter.
Okay. Great.
All right, any other comments? So I think Beth is looking for just a general motion of support for the letter with the comments we've discussed here. Can I get a motion for that?
Jonathan Scott. Motion to support the letter.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan. With the motion to support the letter, we have a second.
Jay Collins, second.
Jay Collins, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Was that what you were looking for, Beth, as far as support?
Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let me unshare.
Thank you. Okay. All right, moving right along. Next up is the Tampa Vision Zero.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's the Tampa International Airport. I'm all kind of messed up today.
Okay, Brian, which makes the, if you could make the laptop the present presenter. No, you gotta do that. But Gina's gonna present. Oh, yeah. Got it. So show my screen? Yes.
Good afternoon, I'm Regina Evans with the Tampa International Airport, and I'm here to give you guys a little bit of update on the airport and also go through where we are with our 2022 master plan. The FAA requires us every 10 years to study how we are going to plan for the next 30. In 2012, our master plan, that's where the rental car center and the curbside expansion and all those pieces came together. So we're really excited to see what comes out of 2022. So you guys are a little bit, when you guys are familiar with us, in addition to Tampa International Airport, we do own and operate 3 general aviation facilities, Peter Knight and Tampa Executive. We're actually under a master plan process for Tampa Executive as well, with all the growth that's happening in that part of the county with the I-4, I-75, and the Speedway going in and some other things. We think that one of the things that we are working with the county and the planning commission on is actually improving the road access out there, because it's I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but it's very rural. And so in order to grow that airport, the road access will be needed to be improved. We generate about $15 billion in economic activity each year. We are the 28th busiest airport in the country, which makes us a large hub. We are the jumbo shrimp of the large hub airports. They're called the Core 30. Florida is unique in that we are the only state that has 4 large hub airports. I really think, how crowded New York, New Jersey are, but New York only has 2. New York is obviously in New Jersey, and California actually only has 3, and Texas has 2. Sept, again, a little bit more about us. Like this is, and these are all post-pandemic numbers. So Southwest remains our largest carrier with Delta and American coming in. We've been getting a lot of questions on what does the Spirit JetBlue merger mean for our market. Then even with them being combined, they will still be our fourth largest carrier, coming in about 10%. To give you a dynamic shift of that, they will actually become Orlando's largest carrier. So again, it's that different type of passenger. Or you see our top markets are New York, Chicago, Detroit, growing mix of leisure and business, and international growing as well. So our revenues here are our projected sources. You can see that the airlines make up about a little bit over 30% of our revenue. This changed in 2020. Previously, that would have been parking, and we were operating under an agreement that was a 20-year-old airline operating agreement. So you think about all of the changes just on TSA alone that the airlines were not paying for, that were just coming out of our O&M, and so now the airlines are paying a little bit more. And you can see that breakdown. Rental cars, 16%. We are the 7th largest rental car market in the country. So while we're the 28th largest airport, we're the 7th largest rental car market, and then food and beverage. Passenger projection, as you can see, coming out, we were crawling out of the Great Recession and doing very well. We were on track for a record year, and then the pandemic happened, and we are now seeing those gains again. So we will actually have a record year next year, this next fiscal year, which we are on October 1 fiscal year. So that'll be our next for 2023. Our operating revenues, you can see how our revenues have grown over the past 10 years. We are very proud of these numbers. As you can see, going from 184 million to 345 million. And that was by doing some of our contracts with the concessionaire program, really making the most out of what existing spaces we have. Market resilience update. You can see that the blue line is our recovery versus the national recovery, and we've always, Florida in general has been recovering faster than the rest of the country. Our counterparts in California would love to see these numbers until Asia really reopens. San Francisco and LA, their airports are just not going to be rebounding as fast because that's the international piece for them. Again, talking about international traffic, you can see how much we're recovering finally, having the international reopen, and we've actually had some exciting new launches with, we're very excited to launch Virgin Airlines here in November to London Heathrow. We will be the only one of 4 airports in the country that serves both Gatwick and Heathrow. So we're very excited to have British Airways daily to Gatwick and then Virgin Airways to Heathrow. Again, I mentioned that Breeze. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to fly Breeze yet. David Nealman, who actually created JetBlue, he basically starts up airlines, sells them off to make some profit, and then goes and starts off another one. It's a great job. It's like he's started like 5 or 6. I think this is like either his 6th or 7th airline actually. Like, and Breeze, he launched the first commercial flight ever for that airline was from here to Charleston, and Joe was actually the first ticketed passenger on Breeze Airways. Him and Joe go back to his days at JetBlue and Joe's days in New York, and so we were really happy. They serve like Charleston, Tucson, I believe they have like Oklahoma City, Akron, some of those point-to-point places that people really wanted, and they're growing pretty fast. Same thing with the Velo, and then Eurowings Discover is part of the Lufthansa group, and they are now serving the Frankfurt planes. So again, here are the largest underserved cities, because everybody wants to know like where we're going next. And so you can see on this underserved, we've actually checked off a lot of those boxes. So we're very happy with the West Coast service. Those are our new ones. When I got to the airport 10 years ago, we had no service to the West Coast. And so now we have Seattle, San Francisco, San Diego, LA. You can see, well, I guess San Diego fell off again, because that was a Southwest Max issue, but you can see where we're going next. So we did have Amsterdam for a little bit. We're hoping that that one comes back as Delta continues to recover. Growth and modernization, as I said, the 2012 master plan, you guys are familiar with the rental car center, the people mover system. MTAC is with the main terminal expansion concession redevelopment. We Blue Express curbsides, which I have a slide on that in a second, opened late last year. And then we will be demoing our admin building. I don't know if any of you guys come out to the airport lately. There's a new building attached to the rental car center. That's our new office building, which we had to move in order to start the enabling work for the Red Side Express curbs. And then Airside T, we are very excited about this. I was telling Gina that you know, we've done all these incredible buildings, and for this team, none of us, very few of us, have done an airside project just because of the last airside was over 17 years ago. And so last week, our board approved moving forward with D, which we did put on pause during the pandemic. So again, here's the existing. If you guys go out to the airport now, you can see this where my cursor is the empty space where D was. And we, D was demolished after Airside C opened, which is our newest terminal. It's also the only terminal that was built post 9/11. So that's why that security checkpoint is bigger than the other airsides. Airside D right now has UPS, Amazon, and FedEx are operating. Actually, not FedEx. UPS and Amazon operate out. There's also overnight parking for planes. So the cargo project is underway to get them out, which then will allow us to rebuild Airside D. Again, it'll be 16 swing gates, so it'll be domestic and international, and we'll have the internet. We will move the FIS facility over there. Some of you guys may remember that in 2014 we expanded the international facility at Airside Aft, and that's what allowed us to grow the international airside. So there was only one baggage belt down there, so they could only handle one wide body at a time. And now Air Service has done such a great job of getting all those European flights in that we are maxed out. So Airside D is coming on at a great time for us, not just for the domestic gates that we are in desperate need of, but also that international processing facility so that we can continue to grow that European time channel. So here's the short little video on D of what it's going to look like. And again, it's going to feel just like Tampa, just like everything else we do, very modern with all the latest technology, innovation. Again, those 16 swing gates, so all of them will be able to accommodate wide bodies. Going at very open concept, and it will, this construction will start in 2024 and be completed in 2027. This will allow us to increase our passenger output by 13 million passengers until 2037. It will be about 563,000 square feet. And right now you're looking at the baggage claim for international, and then you're going out. Instead of going down into a basement like at JFK or Miami, it's actually going to go up. And so the customs facility will actually be very well lit with a lot of glass. And then you will get your bag, go through customs, and then take the Air Safety tram back over. And it's actually going over where the red side express cars will be. So right now there's our admin building, and we're having to shore up all of that stuff. And this is just another view of it. It will have state-of-the-art screening. You know, some of you guys may know we've done biometric screening for both exit and entry, and we are working on all facet 50 gates now. So just really that seamless, touchless passenger experience with all new concessions out there, and you can see a very big security checkpoint with lots of opportunity, lots of open spaces for passengers to relax, get some work done before getting on the flight. So we're really, really excited to start this project next month, and so that'll be 2027. I'll be here before we know it. So it was originally slated to begin in 2021, but again, because of the pandemic, we had to delay it until this year. So. And here's our budget slide. Everybody likes to see how we're paying for it. We are very grateful to FDOT for their contribution. PFC bond funds of the passenger facility charge is a $4.50 fee that's on every airplane ticket. And that fee has not been increased or modernized by Congress since 2000, so the buying power of it's basically nothing. Clay remembers me lobbying him on this when he was working for Congressman Ruby.
Like it was yesterday.
And so, but again, those are the user fees that go back in FDOT grants. We're using a little bit of bipartisan infrastructure money, and again, kind of goes through how we're paying for it. And again, what I was saying, the master plan is that it is required by the FAA, but we are doing a lot of community outreach. And so we've been having events at the airport where the community can come in, and we were doing a road show like this. Joe and I will actually be giving this presentation to the TPO board on Wednesday, but really doing that road show that we've done for years. So if you guys ever want us to come out and present to your organization, let us know. And then again, some other things that we're focusing on is not just, the air site's actually from the original 2012 master plan. So it's now looking at what's our future use for ground transportation and parking. What is our airfield capacity? What is our future access and on airport circulation? So you guys remember that there was talk of a north terminal. So do we need the north terminal now? How long can we stay in our existing facilities before we have to go and do that? Innovation, emerging technology. Advanced air mobility is something that Brett Fay, who manages our 3 general aviation airports, and myself are heading up for the airport, and we are really leaning into this, and we're really excited to see how it fits into our community and to all 4 airports, really. In that biometric gate check, the self-bag drop, which we currently have at the rental car center, but how can we possibly expand that to other places on the airport, since everybody really enjoys that. Security screening, autonomous vehicles, adaptable curbside, and evolving parking technologies. And here's where, this is where this master plan will take us out to. So this takes us out till 2042. And again, you can see the growth of the passengers going from, so this takes us from 15 million passengers to almost 39 million passengers. And then, so again, community outreach. Gina, I'll send you guys the link when we have some public meetings. If you guys would like to come out to the boardroom and listen to all of our outreach. Again, Express Blue curbside. So they're the first in the country, and it is for passengers who are not checking it back. So you think that you have like your boarding pass is already on your phone. You don't even show your boarding pass at TSA anymore. You just give them your driver's license. You're not checking your bag. Go to the Blue Express curbs. But if you're getting dropped off by Uber, if you're getting dropped off by a friend, family member, go to those curbs. You can no longer interact with the people who are loading or unloading your bags. And so it's like, I can see here, like,
I love it.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
I'm a big fan. Somebody who never checks, it's so amazing.
It's the same. So when you come into the airport, you make a decision for full service or express lanes. And the express lanes, they're just on the outside, so they're closer to the long-term parking garage on the blue side, and on the red side will be where our admin building is. So they're both for arrivals and departures, and this actually doubles our number of curbsides. So when the red side's done, they're beautiful. You go to a whole separate thing, and then there's your vertical circulation that just takes you to the 3rd floor. So you never have to go to ticketing, or if you're coming back from a trip, you just take the elevator, escalator down to the 1st floor, and you never have to interact with baggage claim. Our curbsides were absolutely one of our checkpoints, and then that flows out to the traffic lanes and everything else. So the more people that we can get using these, the better. And again, we'll have the red will be done in 2025. The admin building is actually holding up the parking garage, and so they're having to go into the parking garage first and shore up the parking garage before we can take the admin building down. So we're in that process right now. And once that's complete, then they'll demo our 40-year-old office building, which is very exciting. And again, as I mentioned, we have a new, we did relocate our office building to across from the rental car center. We are leasing 3 floors. We are actually purchasing the building in March. It is fully leased out. And so instead of us paying the developer, we will purchase it. We will become the land. We'll become the owner of the building, and then we will no longer be paying rent, and we will actually then generate those revenues from the tenants. So again, getting away from that being so dependent on airline or revenues. Parking, if you guys are parking at the airport and you're not using our express cards, go online and park. And they go online and pay. If the old rates are online, you are guaranteed a spot in the garage. You don't reserve a specific spot, but especially at tight times like spring break and holidays, you can reserve. You make a reservation and you just hold your phone up to the, you get like a QR code. You just hold your phone up to the parking going into the garage and then the toll plaza when you leave. It is always going to be cheaper online. And then once you do that, we then have loyalty programs and those types of things. So take advantage of that. Mobile food ordering, TPA to go, think of Uber Eats, but at the airport. And so if you're at, you're flying American Airlines, you're at Airside F, but you really want that Cuban sandwich from Colombia, you can order the Cuban sandwich from Colombia and they will deliver it to a different shoreside. So it's been great for families that don't want to have, like, be standing in line trying to get like all the food and everything. And so they'll just deliver it to the gate. It also allows you to pick up food from, say, from any airside or main terminal, and they'll have it delivered to your gate. And I mentioned biometric screening. We were required by Congress to have exit, which is like when you board the plane for biometrics. But if you did exit, then you were prioritized for entry, which is what we really wanted for to enhance the customer experience so that it's quicker going through the customs facility. And of course, everybody's favorite, the flamingo is done. The glass is finally done. They took the covering off the reflective glass last week, so it actually the art piece is actually called Home. We just refer to it as the flamingo or the mingo, and it is now complete. So we have a 21-foot flamingo. And again, you guys know, like, we're always one of the best airports in the country. One of the things that we're really proud of is most hygienic airports in 2021. Coming out of the pandemic, cleanliness was obviously something that passengers really wanted, and so we focused on that. And again, we're also top choice to lots of survey. So we're also very proud of this. You know, our team's been together for 10 to 12 years now, and so it's we're very proud places to work without retaining our talent as well. So that is my presentation. Any questions? I know I just threw a lot out there. Got a lot out there. Jay?
Yeah, so thank you. So one thing with the reconstruction of D, the way they have it, does this mean that the conversation is over and Tampa is a destination? It will never be a hub for an airline?
So I don't think Florida in general is not really ever going to be a hub. Just
I mean, outside of American Airlines at Miami.
Right, exactly. I think that you are starting to see, I think, for Central and South America, we could be. I think when, Copa Airlines, with how they code share, I think there's some growth for that. But that is it is a sweet facility, and it'll be interesting to see what domestic carriers end up there. I think that when you talk about Florida's geography, it really, we're not a hub.
Well, it makes, because you've got 16 slots. Well, you've got 16 gates and then however many slots that you can work with the turnaround of, 777 or whatever's coming in, depending on what you have. But if I can't connect the terminals, I have to go back through security, and I can't ticket connections that way. That's an illegal ticket. I can't sell it. So that's the thing about the hub. Nobody will ever hub here on one terminal.
Well,
I can't see that unless it is Breeze or Avelo, because they're small enough and that's all they would do.
Well, I think that, one thing Jay, is even if you come in through Miami and you're taking a domestic flight, you have to go back through security. So it's not just because when you're coming in, you have to go through domestic screening.
Yeah.
And so even when you come in through Miami and you're taking it's all on one ticket. They do a lot of code sharing though, where you can. So for example, Silver Airways code shares with
United, American.
Right, and so you can go to the Bahamas. So people can fly in from Denver to Tampa and then get on a Silver Airways ticket, and it's all one ticket.
Yeah.
And vice versa. to come in on the Bahama, to come in on Silver and then.
I think the question, I guess the question would be, I'm sorry to just to
No.
speak there, would be, if we started over, would we connect the air sides with the train? So you would not have to go back through security.
I would say that we would absolutely still go to this design, and the reason being is that because of security, it is, Florida's geography was never going to allow us to be a big hub
Yeah.
anyways. But the other piece of it is that the reason why Tampa is so beloved, you're only going through security with the people that you're flying out of the interstate with. So Orlando has the exact same design that we do, but because their security is in the main terminal, you only have that checkpoint. And that's why the checkpoints, and those checkpoints are not only failures for service,
They're long.
you are sit there, they're open, they're so much targets for a potential terrorist threat because you are not through security and you're like sitting ducks out there. So that is actually one of the most vulnerable places. From an airport perspective is actually the security line. Yeah, I mean, it is. It's like, I mean, I know it sounds like really terrible to say, but I mean, that is one of the most vulnerable, areas. And so I don't think I think our design is what makes us so great. And just that with Florida, no one's going to fly here to then fly to tech. You know, you're not going to come from New York to Tampa to go to Houston or Dallas or wherever. Or if you think about where the airlines have consolidated their hubs to, with the exception of Miami, they're all in the same part of like this. They're all in the same part of the country. Whether you're in Charlotte, Atlanta, Dallas, Phoenix, like it's like that's how they're doing it. But I do think that some of the other airports, Frontier has a crew base here now, and I think that Frontier's going to like Frontier. You see that Frontier's expanding their international pieces, so you can buy that ticket on Frontier and come in, and you're going. You got to go through security, you have to go back out to their gate, but it's all still on one ticket, and that's why you're seeing those ultra low cost carriers do things like, target like Dominican Republic. They Frontier just got approval for that. You've got. What are the other ones that they were going to? Jamaica, I think, was on their list as well for seasonal service.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Does your master plan have any, or take into effect like light rail connection in the future?
Yes.
45.
So our 2012 master plan shows how you can connect the existing people mover system down to the West Shore Multimodal Center. So that's actually in our existing plans. Our campus is very small. We're only 3,500 acres, and we don't have the space on our property to be the multimodal center like you think about Miami with NIP and everything, but we do show that connection down to the West Shore Multimodal Center.
Gina?
So silly, and it's really not even, anyway, see if you'll know the answer. But like for Breeze, for instance, the airline, I've never heard of them, and if Expedia doesn't carry or like serve their airline, like are there others that I'm missing out on? Basically, I want to check.
Yeah,
Like, how would
I mean, I think Avelo is another one. And Breeze, it's kind of like they launched they launched during the pandemic, so it was kind of that like coming out of it, and it's like those point to point. So it's like one of those. You wouldn't necessarily fly them if you're not going to like Tulsa or Charleston or
Well, I
wherever.
go to some small cities and I don't like agent. And I always check with Southwest, but I have to do that separately from like those services.
Yeah, and it's on our route map is always up to date on the website where it shows what cities we fly to and what airlines fly there. And Breeze, again, it's interesting what David Nealman's doing. He's entering that ultra low cost carrier market. So you can fly for $39 to Charleston. So a round trip ticket is $38, which again, JetBlue service, but for $78 and you're in Charleston.
I have one other question about the parking discounts. That sounds cool, but I use my Sun Pass, but then it sounds like maybe pre-purchasing is still even a better.
Yeah, it is. I think that, if you go online, they're still on the old rates where Sun Pass is under the current rate, like the existing rates where it's always going to have that discount.
Yeah. And my grandson loved the flamingo. It's very cool. I mean, and it looks like you're underwater.
Yeah, it does. It's the flamingo. If you guys have not seen the flamingo, it is, it's 20 feet. It's wonderful, but it's 21 feet of flamingo. It's like, I had somebody like say to me, like somebody who flies like every week. and was like, I haven't seen it. And I'm like, how? You fly out of American Airlines, like you fly out of your site at the Flamingo's right there. How do you miss a 21-foot thing being like right? But yes, so we're very excited to have the Flamingo done.
Yeah. Anyone else? Comments?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the City of Tampa Vision Zero.
You're still there. It's Cal Hardy will need the controls. Unless Cal, do you want us to run it or do you have?
No, I can do it if y'all can. Can y'all hear me? Everybody, everything good there? Okay.
So can you hear everything good?
Oh, I couldn't.
All right, let's see. Are y'all seeing my screen right now? It looks like it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and let me go to display settings. This one. All right, y'all see it full screen now?
Yes.
All right. So first off, I wanted to apologize for the last time I was scheduled for this. We had an emergency meeting thing, and it was my fault. I misremembered the date, so I thought that the date was the next month, and I think it was the June-July thing. So I don't know. They're all 1 month to me. So anyway, so I do apologize for missing that one. So I am glad that you were able to accommodate us on this date. So I just wanted to go through a brief presentation on how the city manages our vision or accommodates Vision Zero through our resurfacing program. So basically, when Mayor Jane Castor took office, she had a series of 5 strategic goals, transportation being one. And with that, she actually went ahead and convened a special committee to come up with strategic goals for for transportation to actually implement, and those include implementing strategic transit projects, focus on trails and greenways as transportation alternatives, adopt Vision Zero as a citywide policy, reinvent urban parking and mobility, and enhance neighborhood engagement. So with that, one of the things that we actually did was develop our Tampa Moves program, and that is basically a 30-year framework for the future of our transportation system. The Tampa Moves, the Moves is actually an acronym for mobility, economic opportunity, vision for strong neighborhoods, transportation equity, and public safety. So those 5 criteria are the lens that we're actually looking for when we're actually prioritizing our projects. So this slide's a little out of the blue, but I wanted to ask if anybody knew the similarities between Jurassic Park, Salt and Peppa's What a Man, Whitney Houston's In the Bodyguard, and Mrs. Doubtfire. Well, those were all hit movies and songs the last time the gas tax was raised. So gas tax is levied cents per gallon, not a percentage of the price of the total gallon. The gas tax has not been raised in 28 years. When it was last raised in 1993, it was raised from 14.1 cents to 18.4 cents. And that's cents per gallon, like I said. And that's where it remains today. It's not pegged to inflation, which rose 87% from 1993 to 2022. Those are actually old numbers because that did not include the last year of inflation either. So it's probably quite a bit more than that. $1 in 1993 is basically over $1.95 today. So we basically lost half of our revenues if you want to look at it that way. Fuel tax would have to be 34.4 cents to have the same impact. Again, that number hasn't been raised or hasn't been adjusted for the new inflation that we've had. And then at the same time, fuel efficiency and electric vehicle adoption has increased, which cars are basically more cars on the road and they're using fewer gallons of gas per car. Right now, we're looking at a 60% projected forecast, 60% decrease in our gas tax revenues. And while all that's going on, our vehicle mileage is going up. So from that same time, 1993 to 2020, we had a rise of vehicles, basically 3.7 million to 4.9 million miles, vehicle miles. The big thing here is the single unit truck has risen 120%, and combination truck has risen 72%. The reason why that's important is because when you're looking at pavement deterioration, it's based off of axle loading, and those trucks are going to have a much bigger impact on how quickly a pavement degrades over time than just regular passenger cars. So what we're running into is gas tax being a large percentage of our maintenance dollars, yet our roadways are being used more, and they're in poorer and poorer condition every year. And as a roadway ages, the cost of reconstruction or rehabilitation is it goes up considerably. So it's a lot more expensive to fix a road in poor condition than it is to fix one in fair. And then not only that, but a roadway deteriorates from fair to poor much more quickly than it does from good to fair. So in 2018, what are we looking at as far as our maintenance dollars for the city? In 2018, we had a gas tax. We averaged about $9 million a year in gas tax. It's actually going to start going down soon. But our street resurfacing budget took up 4.75 million of that $9 million. The rest of it was for complete streets, safety, intersection improvements, movable bridges, seawalls, and bridge rehabilitation. So that doesn't cover all of our maintenance needs. That's just the resurfacing. Right now, we need about $40 million a year for all of our maintenance needs, including bridges and seawalls, and we average about $5.4 million a year. Right now, with the money that we have, our roadways are on a 75-year paving cycle. So those aren't the only issues that the city has, and in fact, our biggest priority is safety. So Tampa streets are unsafe. We averaged 44 people killed and 289 people severely injured. In 2021, we had 81 fatalities, including 31 peds and 6 bikes. During this time period that these averages were made, San Francisco averaged 27 fatal crashes, and they have more than 2 times the population as the Tampa Bay area, or the city of Tampa, I should say. The Tampa metro region ranks in the top 10 most dangerous areas for walking nationally, and as y'all most likely know, we were number 4 on the dangerous by design. So with Vision Zero, our goal is to eliminate all roadway deaths and life-altering injuries while increasing safe, healthy, equity, mobility for all. And in order to do that, we try to stretch our dollar by incorporating safety improvements into maintenance projects, and we can prioritize maintenance projects on high injury network corridors to help the city get closer to that goal. So this is, I'm going to talk a little bit about this slide, but rather than focus on the words, I just kind of want to show what type of projects are we looking at, and how simple changes can make a big impact. But basically, we are looking to focus on the high injury network. We are looking to, in addition to doing maintenance projects, but we are looking to do more quick build projects, Vision Zero quick build projects, to get our safety devices out there sooner and more cost effectively. We're looking at updating city policies and codes, trying to champion the changes in the law to allow for automated speed enforcement by camera, and constructing neighborhood greenways and other bike boulevard features, and then doing some more with lighting, because I believe the number is 80% of our traffic fatalities happen at night. I believe that's the number. Don't quote me on that. But on the pictures, I wanted to show you all a few of these things. This was one of our high injury network corridors that was identified in 2014, Hyde Park Avenue, and this was one of our top 3 corridors for with safety concerns. And if you look at the top, it's very hard to see, but there is one line on this road. It's right in the middle, and it's a white dashed line, 1040 skip. basically separating 2 travel lanes, and that's it. If there's nobody parked there, which what you can't see is we're actually disallowed parking on the entire right side of the road. That's basically like an 18-foot wide lane with no delineation. So when you have wide lanes, it leads to speeding. It leads to people kind of drifting around in the lane a little bit more, and it really doesn't show where everybody should go on the road. After, you can see we clearly delineated the parking and the bike lanes, and we took them outside of the actual travel lanes. This was done before the buffered bike lane or the parking protected bike lanes. We probably would have flipped it had that standard been allowed back in that time. Okay, so what type of opportunities do we have with maintenance projects for complete streets and safety? So the first thing is to design to your target speed. Look at speed limit reductions, narrow lanes, enhanced signage and striping, and add horizontal and vertical deflection. I want to mention on the target speed, when we were talking about this before, they have roadways that, let's say a roadway might have been resurfaced by the city 20 years ago. Back in that time, they were probably replacing the striping that was in place. So you might not even be dealing with a 20-year-old design. You might be dealing with something more like a 45-year-old design. That's designed to 45-year-old context. The surrounding areas has definitely densified and urbanized. That's designed to 45-year-old transportation standards. So when you look, don't consider the speed that you have now as what the speed that you're trying to accommodate for the surrounding context. Additionally, accommodate alternative modes. That's easily by putting bike lanes, if possible, which are not only bike lanes, but micromobility lanes. Start thinking of them as like scooter lanes or one-wheel lanes or e-bike lanes, but really a transportation alternative for the increasing number of vehicles that we're going to actually see in those lanes. Where there's a lot of places where we have opportunities for bike parking. We have a ton of motorcycle spaces that rarely get used that could be utilized for bike parking. We have a project right now where we're actually putting in golf cart parking in an area that golf carts are allowed to traverse the city roads. Add delineators and separators, add conflict markings, and accommodate transit better. And this could be easily done by just coordinating with HART by moving a flag, a bus stop flag, maybe closer to a proposed crosswalk. And you don't have to go through, like, we're not talking about adding more shelters and things like that, just small, low-cost things that actually make living in the city a little bit easier to get around. And then build for people. Frequent, safe, enhanced crosswalks. We generally put a crosswalk where they make sense because of access issues. We have a lot of like through streets that don't go all the way through, and you can kind of tell where people are going to be walking. Parks, schools, attractors like convenience stores, grocery stores, things like that. And otherwise, people will cross at the intersections. But if it's a safe place to cross, just adding a crosswalk is with an RFB or some kind of enhanced crosswalk just gets a little bit more conspicuity to people. And if you give them enough frequency, they'll use those rather than just crossing at an unsignalized or unmarked crosswalk. Also adding curb extensions and painted bulb outs, adding refuge islands so they have a place to stop in the median, and adding raised crosswalks. So I have a few pictures. I already talked about this one. This is the example for right sizing, just kind of taking the 2 giant lanes and delineating them a little bit more. This is a project that we recently did on Davis Boulevard. And this actually has a few of the accommodations I was talking about. One, the curb extension is that floating island. And I wanted to show that just as an example because if you notice, we didn't mess with the flow line at all. We kept that completely open. It still provides the protection to the pedestrian, but it doesn't require any kind of drainage structures or anything like that. Conflict markings in the bike lane, those are both new. That bike lane is new, and so are the conflict markings. We added a new mid-block crosswalk in the background, you can see, with an RRFB and a refuge island. We enhanced the signage, and we added ADA accessible curb ramps where needed. Here's another one that we did on, this is Burreen / Cleveland Street on the west side of the river, right by Parker. And that area has had a lot of new development coming in and more on its way. So people needed a way to get down to Bayshore and into the Publix down there. So we had a lot of crossings there. We kind of did the same thing I was talking about before, where we floated the island, and we had a lot of discussion about material change within the with the concrete sidewalk actually at level. So we ramped down, and then we kept the detectable warning all the way by the street, and then kept changed the surface to concrete, just so that there was like no confusion on the part for anybody with sight disabilities of where they're supposed to walk. Okay, a couple other projects. The one on the left was actually, it was augmented when we did Davis Boulevard, but it's just a little burn down for a pretty wide turn coming off Davis Boulevard. And one of our engineers over here, Bernie, she found that burn down, which I thought was really cool. Just a kind of like an additional pavement message to reinforce, hey, you might not see the crosswalk 20 feet in front of you if you're coming and taking that curve at speed. And then finally on Harbor Island, we did a buffered bike lane with delineator post. And not only does it provide a connection from Harbor Island to the Water Street District and Channel Side, but it also gives a little bit more shy distance for pedestrians walking across, which makes it a lot more comfortable walking across that bridge. All right, so this is Davis Boulevard before, and this was after. On that project, we also did a raised crosswalk at the end of the project. We did a little bit, we changed the design of this crosswalk from the standard to have a little bit of a shorter up ramp so that it gives a little bit better speed control. We did this on Harbor Island as well, and on that road, we actually replaced some pretty aggressive speed humps that were already out there, like very aggressive. You really had to slow down pretty drastically. And I was worried about complaints coming in after the project, but we haven't received any. And in fact, I think if I noticed driving out there, it seems like traffic speeds don't pick up as much because people don't get as frustrated because they don't have to slow down like to a crawl, go over the speed hump, and then keep on going. So these have been working really well for us. We do have these ADA grates that our maintenance and operation folks curse me every day I put one of those in, because they do take a lot of bit of maintenance because of the leaf buildup and everything like that. So we try to avoid those where possible. But with a raised crosswalk, your options are limited. This is one of the ones that we put in at Harbor Island. This one was actually a private-public partnership. SPP actually went ahead and paid for the installation of this portion. And then finally, I just wanted to say, one of the other things that we learned is that it's to consider other projects outside of just resurfacing. Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Good.
Okay, all right, sorry, I thought I heard something. But this is a bridge rehab that is currently finalized in design, but it was, when the referendum got overturned, we have to reschedule or reprogram this with other funding. So we are looking for other options, including possible grant funding. But anyway, this is a 4-lane section that we were looking at taking out a lane and doing some work and removing the middle lane to, instead of being able to go 2 lanes to Cleveland, 2 lanes to Bayshore, making it 1 lane in each direction and then a center lane that you can either go left or straight. So it didn't really affect the operations of the roadway that much, but it would allow us to, we'll be able to put an 8-foot to 9-foot sidewalk on either side of the bridge. In addition to that, right now the traffic railing is on the outside of the bridge, and if you're riding the bike on the really narrow sidewalks, it's right about calf level. So it's a little bit wary kind of going over that, and you're seeing the river on one side of you and traffic right up against the curb there. So now we'll have like physical separation, like a full-on traffic railing between vehicles and pedestrians. And that allows us to do a full height bike rail on the other side of the bridge, which we can also tie in the same type of railing that we use for the Riverwalk and kind of make it into like one continuous crossing. We're even looking at doing the same lighting as a Riverwalk, so kind of rebrand that as a river crossing that will connect both the east and west side Riverwalks in the future. The changes here, this was a close to $7 million project for the rehab. The changes to add the 9-foot sidewalks on either side was just changes in the grading, and it was about $350,000. So if you think about that in terms of what the design costs or what the total installation cost was, pretty much a no-brainer. In general, when we do our, I've been looking at the numbers. I'm trying to get a better idea for what the safety enhancements cost above a standard maintenance project. But the numbers I have, even, and I'm including all the striping for bike lanes, everything that we would put there anyway, it's only like a 18% overage from what we normally do. And that's more likely closer to 12 to 15% if I actually had time to go through and take out each piece of information that I needed. So it's not much for a huge impact. So that's basically it. I just wanted to finish the slide with our Vision Zero in Tampa Moves website. If you go, there's a QR code there you can scan, or it's pretty easy to remember, tpamoves.org. So if you have any comments, or if there's anything that you're interested in to see what the city's doing, or if you want to provide input, please go to that website and you can provide it there. All right, and that's all I have.
All right, very, very good. Very impressive. A lot more detail than I thought that was going to be, so we appreciate that. Do we have any comments or questions?
Love it.
So we have our resident Vision Zero
I'm cheering for you
headquarter
over here.
headliner here.
Although I have to tell you that the 100-year-old asphalt work on my street, I can definitely relate to the fact that there's not enough funding for some of our local road resurfacing projects. I have zip tied the skirt underneath my car. But no, I'm really excited, and I'm so proud of the city and what you guys are doing to fix it fast. I guess you would be using that term for a lot of those projects, and that's really good. Saving lives.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, they're fun projects to do. We design most of them in-house when we do those, and we have one on Heim, so we actually added a bus bay, a couple of bus bays too with the maintenance project, and it was taking some space out of the roadway to delineate a bus bay. So there's some pretty cool things that you're able to do with just kind of, if you have control of your capital or your maintenance program.
If you have any before and after data, or eventually do crashes, even travel time before and after data would be really helpful when we try to encourage more of these types of projects. So thank you.
Yeah, and by the way, Davis Boulevard was on our high injury network, and that is one thing that we kind of looked at. Not when we programmed Davis, I had no idea. The reason, because we didn't have that information yet. But it's funny because when the high injury network data came out, they were all collector roads that had significant means for our needs for maintenance. And before the high injury network came out, when we were looking at all for transportation, I had already gone through and put like the most dangerous corridors were already on our all for transportation list because of the maintenance needs. And I think that goes back to that thing where, it's an older design, and they were designed to move cars more quickly and like less safely. So I think that's kind of what I was trying to get at with the 45 years. It's just that it's amazing how well those two things matched up, the high injury network and the roads with advanced maintenance needs.
All right, very good. I can tell you, Carol, I've sat on this committee for quite a few years, and the safety and Vision Zero at the forefront is certainly valued by this committee. So we really appreciate all the efforts the city's making. We enjoy hearing about them. They can't be understated how important they are. One really minor comment, just I'm just curious, you mentioned the ability for golf carts to park in the city. I didn't think they were approved to be anywhere but Temple Terrace and Sun City. Is there an area that I'm not aware of?
Yep, Davis Island, and trust me, because it was my first foray into ordinance writing, and it was we did a lot of research, and it was a very challenging thing to do to kind of figure out what our rules were going to be. So Davis Islands, you can have it's not just an ESV or LSV, low speed vehicle. You can have an actual golf cart. And I think we required licensed drivers. I think that was what the ordinance was. So, but I know that they have somehow there's something in downtown starting up too. So I don't know if that's going to be, maybe, I don't know, maybe in downtown you might start seeing it.
Yeah, I heard that they're going to have like a taxi cab service, but I thought they were a little souped up to where they were going to meet minimum street requirements or something to get around the rules. But true golf cart types. I mean, that's interesting. It would make sense, Davis Island, assuming that it's kind of contained to the island itself. That certainly seems like a place where it would make sense,
So
but I just wasn't aware of it.
So my neighbor in Seminole Heights who lends out his golf cart to all of us if we need to use it, I guess we're not supposed to be doing it.
I'll send an email to traffic enforcement right now. So the state law does allow, by state law, you can do low speed vehicles, but there's like turn signals, lighting, seat belts, that kind of stuff, requirements on those.
Yeah. Okay, well, I appreciate it. So I don't see any other questions from the room. So I think with that, we're going to move on. Thanks again.
Excuse me, Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, hang on. Yes.
Yes, Chair. Danny Jorgensen had joined the meeting a while ago, and she did have a comment in the chat. Danny, did you want to unmute and make your comment?
I just wanted to mention again, I think Cal mentioned it, that Alex Henry joined the city last Monday as our Vision Zero coordinator. So you'll see his face moving forward. And so we have a lot of new faces at the city that we plan to introduce you to.
Okay, great. Thanks, Danny. All right, I think we're going to move on now. Thanks. Last scheduled topic is the health impact assessment.
So is Josh Barber receiving the presenter ability to present? Josh, are you on? Are you signed on?
He is not currently on the call.
Huh.
Would you like me to go check real quick?
Like him physically here? I didn't see him today. Well, if he isn't on here, we'll have to reschedule him for the next meeting.
All right. Look here to make sure he's not. Yeah, I agree. I don't see him on the line here. All right, well, I guess we're going to just table that one for a future meeting at this point.
Yes, it was here for status, so that means that there's an additional time for us to weigh in on the study, and it could be very interesting. Actually, it is a very interesting presentation. I think you guys would enjoy it, so I'm definitely happy to come back.
Okay. All right, so with that, I guess we will move on. That was the last scheduled topic. So is there any old or new business that anyone would like to bring up?
Quite a few things on the addendum that might be of interest to you all. There's some projects going around. There's a survey for Plant City that we've been asking folks to weigh in on a trail alignment, if you're familiar with that area or have an interest in filling that survey out. There's some other work that DOT is working on, so that's really all I had.
Okay. All right, with that, I think we are ready to adjourn, giving one final opportunity for anybody online to comment. I don't see any or in the room. So with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thanks.
No, yeah, like, I think you call it.